Chapter 1. Patrol under the Veracruz sky. Sweat trickled down Jorge's neck, mingling with the salt spray as the ocean breeze whipped past. He adjusted his helmet, the strap rough against his cheek, his gaze sweeping across the endless expanse of the Mexican night. It was a familiar sight, etched into his memory alongside the constellations that glittered like a million scattered diamonds overhead. He'd been stationed near Tecolutla for almost a year now, patrolling the quiet stretch of beach with his squad, chasing away smugglers and the occasional lost tourist. It was routine, predictable, almost peaceful. Tonight, however, a strange tension crackled in the air. The usual chatter amongst his squad had died down to hushed whispers, their usually carefree laughter replaced by a gnawing unease. Even the crickets, usually a constant thrumming soundtrack to their nights, seemed to have fallen silent. Jorge glanced at his companions, Miguel, his broad frame hunched beneath his pack, and Carlos, his usually playful eyes shadowed with concern. They shared a silent exchange, a question hanging heavy in the air. Did they all feel it too? The static on their radios sputtered and hissed, the rhythmic crackle morphing into an incoherent cacophony. Miguel fiddled with the knobs, muttering curses under his breath. "Storm coming in?" he asked, but his voice lacked conviction. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, only the vast, inky canvas sprinkled with stars. An unfamiliar cry pierced the night, a screech unlike any animal they'd encountered before. It sent shivers down Jorge's spine, raising the hairs on his arms. They all instinctively reached for their weapons, hearts hammering against their ribs. In the distance, the silhouettes of palm trees swayed violently, as if buffeted by an unseen wind. A low hum vibrated through the air, growing louder, resonating deep within Jorge's chest. It wasn't the comforting rumble of an approaching truck, but something altogether different, a sound that seemed to emanate from somewhere beyond the physical world. The hum intensified, morphing into a pulsating thrum, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Suddenly, a blinding light sliced through the darkness, bathing the beach in an eerie, ethereal glow. It wasn't the harsh glare of a searchlight, but a soft, diffused luminescence that seemed to emanate from the sky itself. Jorge shielded his eyes, his heart pounding a frantic tattoo against his ribs. The light intensified, revealing a sight that froze the blood in his veins. Hovering silently above them, dwarfing the palm trees with its immense size, was an object unlike anything he'd ever seen. It was metallic, yet somehow seemed to shimmer with an internal light, its form defying categorization. Fear, cold and primal, washed over him, erasing the camaraderie, the easy jokes, leaving only a chilling certainty. They were no longer alone on this deserted beach. As Jorge stared, transfixed, at the impossible object hanging in the night sky, a single, chilling thought echoed in his mind. Tonight, their routine patrol had taken a horrifying turn. Chapter 2. Descent of the Fireball. The unearthly glow intensified, revealing an object that defied understanding. Metallic yet shimmering, it defied classification, dwarfing the palm trees with its sheer immensity. Fear, cold and primal, gripped Jorge's heart, squeezing the air from his lungs. They were no longer alone. Then, in an instant, the scene morphed into something more terrifying. A searing streak of white light carved across the night sky, emanating from the unknown object. It moved with impossible speed, leaving a trail of sizzling embers in its wake. A choked gasp escaped Miguel's lips, echoed by a panicked murmur from Carlos. The light didn't fade. Instead, it grew bigger, brighter, consuming the sky like a ravenous beast. Jorge squinted, trying to track its trajectory, his mind numb with terror. Then, with a deafening roar that shattered the eerie silence, the object slammed into the earth, igniting the horizon in a blinding inferno. The initial flash subsided, leaving behind a swirling vortex of fire and smoke. The ground pulsed with the aftershock, sending them stumbling. Dazed and disoriented, Jorge fumbled for his radio, only to find static hissing back at him. Panic gnawed at him. They were cut off. alone, with something unthinkable out there. Duty, however, flickered back to life. They were soldiers, sworn to protect, and whatever had fallen from the sky, it presented a threat. Glancing at his companions, Jorge saw the same grim determination mirrored in their eyes. Miguel hefted his rifle, his jaw set. "Come on," he barked, his voice hoarse but steady. "We need to see what the hell that was." The trek towards the crash site was a surreal pilgrimage through fear. The air shimmered with heat, smoke stinging their eyes and throats. The silence, devoid of even the chirping of insects, was an oppressive blanket. The only sound was the crunching of sand beneath their boots and the pounding of their own hearts. As they drew closer, the flames danced with an otherworldly blue hue, casting grotesque shadows on the sand. The metallic scent of ozone mingled with the acrid bite of smoke, making Jorge cough. The object, partially revealed through the inferno, looked more monstrous with each step. Its smooth, metallic surface was warped and twisted, glowing with an unnatural heat. They stopped at a safe distance, the flames painting their faces in eerie red. An inexplicable fear coiled in Jorge's gut, tightening with each passing second. What horrors lay hidden within that burning wreck? What secrets had it brought from the depths of the unknown? He glanced at his companions, seeing the same question mirrored in their wide eyes. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain. Their lives would never be the same. The silence stretched, filled only by the crackling flames and the hammering of their hearts. Then, a low groan emanated from the wreckage, a sound that sent shivers down their spines and ignited a new wave of chilling fear. The descent of the fireball had only been the beginning. Chapter 3. Encounter with the Unknown. The heat radiating from the crash site pushed against them like a physical force. The flames still danced, their unnatural blue luminescence casting long, unsettling shadows on the sand. With each hesitant step, Jorge's anxiety swelled, the silence broken only by the crackling inferno and their ragged breaths. As they cautiously neared the wreck, its monstrous proportions became clearer. It resembled no aircraft they'd ever seen. Smooth-surfaced and metallic, but warped and twisted by the impact. Strange symbols, glowing with an eerie inner light, pulsed across its surface, humming with an otherworldly tune that thrummed through their bones. Fear warred with an insatiable curiosity within Jorge. What secrets did this fallen craft hold? What unimaginable journey had it endured? He exchanged a quick glance with Miguel and Carlos, seeing the same mix of apprehension and fascination reflected in their eyes. In unspoken agreement, they lowered their weapons, inching closer. Suddenly, a metallic groan sliced through the air, the sound originating from the interior of the craft. A section of the hull hissed and retracted, revealing a narrow opening. Jorge's heart hammered against his ribs as a figure emerged, stumbling out into the flickering light. It was humanoid, vaguely bipedal, but its similarities to humanity ended there. Its skin was an unnatural shade of gray, smooth and hairless, its face dominated by large, luminous eyes that glowed with an unsettling inner light. The being looked injured, its movements jerky and labored, a trail of viscous, shimmering liquid marking its path. Panic threatened to consume Jorge. This was no earthly being, no soldier or fugitive they'd ever encountered. This was something else. Yet, amidst the fear, a spark of empathy flickered. The creature held its hands up in a gesture of surrender, its luminous eyes wide with fear and pain. Miguel, however, reacted less charitably. "What the hell is that?" he roared, raising his rifle. Carlos, equally shaken, fumbled for his own weapon. Jorge couldn't blame them. This was their training kicking in, fear demanding they treat the unknown as a threat. But Jorge hesitated. Something in the creature's posture, its whimpers of pain, resonated with him. He saw fear, not aggression, in those luminous eyes. Lowering his own weapon, he stepped forward, his voice raspy from disuse. "Easy, Miguel. Let's not do anything rash." Miguel's finger hovered over the trigger, his face contorted with indecision. The humming from the craft intensified, pulsing faster, almost pleading. The tension hung heavy in the air. The question unspoken but echoing in their minds, friend or foe? The injured being, its luminous eyes locked on Jorge, awaited their answer. The desert wind stirred, carrying the scent of smoke and fear. In that moment, bathed in the eerie blue glow of the crash site, Jorge's world tilted on its axis. This was no longer just a routine patrol. They had crossed a threshold, stumbled into the realm of the unknown, and their next move would decide the fate not only of themselves, but perhaps of this strange, injured visitor from beyond the stars. Chapter 4. Military Takeover and Silence. Jorge's mind reeled. The injured being, the alien craft, the humming pulse of the unknown. It was all too much to process. He glanced at Miguel and Carlos, their faces mirroring the same mix of awe and fear. But before they could even formulate a response, the ground trembled with a new roar. Headlights sliced through the smoke and dust, revealing a convoy of unmarked military vehicles barreling towards them. Men in black fatigues, faces grim and determined, swarmed the crash site. They pushed Jorge and his squad aside with practiced efficiency, their movements robotic and devoid of emotion. The soldiers watched helplessly as the newcomers surrounded the injured being, their movements precise and practiced. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices swallowed by the crackling flames and the incessant hum emanating from the craft. The being, seeming to understand the shift in power, whimpered and cowered, its luminous eyes pleading for help. But Jorge could offer none. He and his companions were mere observers in this unfolding drama, their presence now an inconvenience. A stern-faced officer approached them, his voice cold and devoid of warmth. "Stand down, soldiers," he barked. "This is no longer your concern. Consider it classified information, understood?" The threat hung heavy in the air, unspoken but clear. Speak a word of what they saw, and the consequences would be severe. A knot of fear tightened in Jorge's stomach. This wasn't just about keeping quiet. It was about erasing the memory, pretending they hadn't witnessed the impossible. With a final, emotionless glance at the injured being, now being bundled into a waiting vehicle, the officer dismissed them. "Return to base. And remember," his voice dropped to a chilling whisper, "silence is your only option." The drive back to base was a blur. The silence in their truck was deafening, punctuated only by the rumble of the engine and the gnawing fear in their hearts. The image of the alien craft, the alien being, remained burned into their minds, a stark reminder of the night their world tilted on its axis. Back at the base, they were debriefed, their statements sanitized, their memories tampered with. The official story? A meteor shower, nothing more. But Jorge knew the truth, a truth he was forced to bury deep within himself. He shared a glance with Miguel and Carlos, a silent acknowledgement of the shared burden. The night had changed them. They were no longer just soldiers patrolling a quiet beach. They were keepers of a secret, bound by fear and a chilling silence. The questions gnawed at them. Who were the newcomers? What was the fate of the alien being? And what other secrets did the vast universe hold? But as they drifted off to sleep, the chilling words of the officer echoed in their minds. Silence is your only option. And for now, at least, they knew he was right. The truth, for their own safety and sanity, had to remain buried, a silent scream trapped within their hearts. The night of the fireball had only just begun, and its consequences would reach far beyond the quiet shores of Tecolutla. Chapter 5. Haunted Memories and Unexplained Changes. Days blurred into weeks, but the memory of that night clung to Jorge like a second skin. The searing image of the alien craft, the whimper of the injured being, the chilling silence imposed upon them, it all haunted his dreams, turning them into vivid nightmares. He wasn't alone. Miguel and Carlos, their faces pale and drawn, mirrored his torment. The weight of the secret, the enforced silence, gnawed at them, breeding distrust and paranoia. Their superiors, once comrades, now seemed like watchful eyes, their casual smiles masking an unspoken threat. One night, under the shroud of darkness, Jorge found himself drawn to Carlos' bunk. He needed to share the burden, to find solace in the knowledge he wasn't alone. In hushed whispers, they spoke of the encounter, dissecting the official story, searching for cracks in the facade. Meteor shower, Jorge scoffed. They think we're fools. Carlos nodded, his eyes wide and fearful. There was something more, something they're hiding. Their shared determination fueled their investigation. They delved into online forums, piecing together fragments of information about UFO sightings, government cover-ups, and hushed whispers of alien encounters. The deeper they dug, the more unsettling the truth seemed. But their pursuit was met with roadblocks. Dead ends, cryptic messages, and veiled threats from anonymous sources became their new reality. The fear, once a dull ache, now thrummed through their veins like a constant drumbeat. One night, while combing through classified documents, Jorge stumbled upon a file titled Project Starlight. His heart pounded as he deciphered its contents. Detailed reports of the Tecolutla incident, analysis of the alien craft, and chilling mentions of subject termination. Panic washed over him. The alien wasn't just captured, it was silenced. The weight of the truth crushed him, the silence imposed upon them taking on a sinister new meaning. Sharing this information, he realized, could be fatal. He found Carlos, his face etched with the same horrified realization. Their investigation, their search for answers, had led them to a dead end, a precipice overlooking a terrifying abyss. The knowledge they possessed was a double-edged sword, offering clarity but demanding silence, a silence that threatened to consume them. As they stared into the darkness, the silence in their room seemed to scream, a constant reminder of their impossible predicament. The encounter at Tecolutla hadn't just changed their lives, it had painted them targets, bound by a chilling secret and the ever-present threat of its exposure. The line between duty and survival had blurred, leaving them questioning everything, even their own sanity. The night, it seemed, was far from over, and in the shadows, something stirred, watching, waiting for their next move. Chapter 6. The Ghost of Tecolutla. Years crawled by, etching the memory of Tecolutla deeper into Jorge's soul. The nightmares persisted, fueled by a gnawing need for answers. The silence, enforced and stifling, became his constant companion. He couldn't ignore the questions that burned ever brighter. What became of the alien being? What secrets did Project Starlight hold? Most importantly, who could he trust? He started discreetly, reaching out to the other soldiers from the patrol. Miguel, haunted by the same demons, readily joined his quest. Carlos, however, had vanished, another casualty of the enforced silence. Their investigation was a treacherous game of whispers and coded messages, navigating a minefield of watchful eyes and cryptic threats. Each conversation, each fragmented memory, revealed another piece of the puzzle. The meteor shower facade crumbled, replaced by a picture of panicked officials, hushed briefings, and a chilling cover-up. Yet, the truth remained elusive, shrouded in layers of classified documents and guarded by men with cold, calculating eyes. Finally, a rumor whispered in a deserted bar, a name scribbled on a napkin, a former scientist involved in Project Starlight, ostracized and silenced. Hope flickered, fragile yet persistent. This could be their key, their chance to expose the truth, to honor the alien being and their own shattered sense of justice. But the cost was high. Exposure meant risking their careers, their freedom, perhaps even their lives. The weight of that choice settled on Jorge's shoulders, a heavy stone threatening to crush him. Could he break the enforced silence, knowing the consequences could be dire? Or would he forever remain haunted by the ghost of Tecolutla, a prisoner of his own memories? With a trembling hand, Jorge reached for the phone, the dial tone echoing like a ticking clock. It was time to decide. The silence wouldn't hold forever, and the truth, no matter how dangerous, demanded to be heard. This night, a long dormant fire ignited within him. He would fight for the silenced, for the truth, and for his own peace of mind. The price might be high, but the silence, he knew, was already too costly to bear. The line connected, his call echoing into the unknown, and as his voice spoke the first words, whispering secrets long buried, the ghost of Tecolutla finally stirred, ready to face the light of day. As Jorge's voice fades, fading with it the fictional echoes of the Tecolutla incident. This story, while inspired by the reported events of 1978, remains a work of fiction, exploring the possibilities that lie beyond the known. The truth of that night in Veracruz remains shrouded in mystery, but it serves as a powerful reminder of the unknown vastness that surrounds us. Whether you believe in alien encounters or not, one thing is undeniable. The desire to understand the universe beyond our own holds an enduring fascination. The Tecolutla incident, with its blend of reported facts and unanswered questions, continues to spark imaginations and inspire stories like this one. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the unknown, consider subscribing to our channel for more thought-provoking narratives and dives into the mysteries that linger on the edges of our world. Remember, the universe is vast, and sometimes, the greatest stories are yet to be told. Thank you for listening.